Hi everyone, I'm Carl and in this video I will be building this dice tray for tabletop gaming. Dice trays are useful when you're playing games where you need to roll large numbers of dice in one go, like many war games. And they keep the dice contained and stop them from rolling off the table or damaging your miniatures and terrain. Of course you don't need a wooden tray, even the lid of a shoebox will work, but it's nice to have something set aside for the job that won't get lost or accidentally thrown away. All you need is a flat container whose sides are high enough to stop dice from bouncing or rolling out, and is large enough for all the dice you need to use at one time. If you're playing D&D and mostly rolling one or two at a time, you can comfortably use a smaller tray than you would need for handfuls of dice in most White Wolf games or Warhammer. Some kind of lining on the bottom of the tray helps reduce the bounce and the noise, so it's nice to have. I started this build by cutting some scrap piece of pine into 4 strips just over 3 cm wide, then planed them to the same width. Pine isn't as classy as some of the hardwoods used in many commercial dice trays, but it's cheap and easy to cut. Those commercial trays really do look nice and the craftsmanship is great, but I'm not willing to spend north of $100 for something to roll dice in. That said, if you have money burning a hole in your pocket, you might want to visit my shop link in the description and buy yourself a t-shirt or a mug. With the pieces planed to it, I then cut them to length. 2 sides 30 cm long and 2 20 cm long. Then I started to cut the rabbet for the bottom of the tray to sit. Since I'm using chipboard for this, I want it to lay flat on the table, otherwise the dice will beat it like a drum once you throw them in. The chipboard is 3 mm thick, so I marked this on one side and left 5 mm on the adjacent side to give me plenty of space for glue. I didn't feel like digging my chisels out for this, so I carved the rabbets out with my knife. It's not very neat, but it's very relaxing. You could of course use a chisel, a router or a shoulder plane instead. Once all the rabbets were in place, I marked out the miters at 45 degrees and sawed them out. Make sure the rabbets are on the inside of the miter. At this point, I taped the pieces together and glued them up. A frame clamp would have been ideal for this, but I keep forgetting to get one, so I ended up using out of clamps instead. This usually works okay, but in this case there was some slippage which I only noticed after the glue had set. It's not a disaster, it just means that the tray will not have perfect 90-degree angles. After the clamping, I planed the top and the bottom sides to make sure they were flat, and started to plane some bevels into the outside. This is purely decorative and serves no practical purpose. To make sure the bevels lined up, I marked pencil lines on the bottom and sides, and planed them as close as I could manage to the lines without cutting past them. Then I did the same for the top, this time making a larger angle. By this point things were starting to look good, so I gave everything a good sanding with 80 grit sandpaper and glued in the bottom. Once this was dry, I decided that there were some gaps that stood out a bit too much. So I went in with some filler, and once that was dry, I sanded everything again and dusted it off. And that's the body of the tray done. I sprayed the pieces with a gloss black paint and a couple of layers of sealer to protect it. If you do this, make sure you spray all around, including the bottom. Finally, I cut a piece of felt to size. The easiest way to do this is to use a piece of paper to get the rough size, cut the felt and then trim it down as needed. You can glue it in if you like, but I left it in the bottom of the tray and it seems to hold up just fine. And that's it for the build. It's a simple project that can be done with basic tools in a couple of evenings, and it's good practice for woodworking. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you know anyone who would find it useful, please do share it with them. Thank you for watching and see you around.